Welcome to the LOVE Unplugged podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Frigon. You may know me from Project Love, where we focus on operational excellence, but here we go deeper. We're your go-to for raw, empowering conversations on entrepreneurship and stepping into your CEO role with love and confidence. Each week, we'll explore everything from mindset shifts, leadership, optimal wellness, to efficient systems, all within a community of visionary women like you. Ready to get real about building a business and life you love? Hit subscribe and let's start this transformative journey together. Welcome, Jennifer. I am so incredibly honored to have you as my guest on the podcast, and I'm so excited to learn all about your story and your expertise. But before we get started, there are people that may not be aware of you, so I'd love for you to take a moment to share a little bit more about you personally.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's such a joy to be here, and I am grateful for opportunities to meet new friends and have conversations. So thank you so much. So who's Jen? Jen has been building babies and businesses for 18 years. I grew up in entrepreneurship and I grew up in motherhood. And so I am a mom of four. And I love being a mom of four. We have a big range of age. So my oldest is 19 and my youngest is 8. So we have this interesting complexity, I suppose, in our home of, all these different dynamics based on these age groups. And it's fun and it's so full of joy. And it also has its challenges. So thank goodness for entrepreneurship and its freedoms so that I can really be present with those kids. That's the whole reason why I started. And to build memory making moments. So this summer, we're really intentional as a family to create a memory every single day. And although that memory can be really tiny, like for example, we put the Nintendo Switch in our living room this summer and we're having some good old games of Mario Kart and things like that. And just really making sure that we reap the rewards of all the decisions we've made and really give presents to our kids. And it's interesting because they've all said to us, "Oh my goodness, we're just starting summer and this has already been the best summer of our lives." And you start to realize how the simple things in life really do matter. And we say these things, but sometimes we don't live those things. And so we're really having a wonderful time as a family. And I've enjoyed being able to be home with the kids while also being available to me and my capacity and what I am here to contribute to the world and create impact with. And so it's really been this gorgeous dance of developing myself and at the same time being fully available to be the best mom I can be.
That's amazing. And so true. That's why most of us start our business, is to have that freedom so that we can enjoy our life and our families more and spend more time in that area. So I'm so happy you were able to find that.
Thank you.
Now, let's start at the very beginning. So what was your journey leading up to coming up with the idea for your business? So were you in corporate? Were you going to school for something specific?
Yeah, I went to school for fashion because I thought I wanted to have a fashion career. As a very young little girl, I remember hearing intuitively, you are here to help women find confidence. And, the word woman wasn't what came through. It was girls at that age. I was really young, but it was really crystal clear. And I knew exactly what my purpose was. It was to develop my own confidence and poise and posture in this life. And at the same time, offer the lessons that I have been gathering over to women. So that I always knew that. And I thought that was going to come through in the form of fashion. I thought maybe I'll be a stylist and I will support women to feel confident in their clothes and to enjoy the art of getting ready in the morning, caring for themselves. And that industry ate me for breakfast. I did not last long in that industry. It was a little too aggressive and harsh for my spirit. So I realized I just have a really big passion for fashion, but it's not how I'm supposed to serve women. And I pivoted into marketing and public relations. So I thought that maybe I'll do a lifestyle magazine and I'll go to cities around North America and find these great boutiques and great little restaurants that nobody really knows about. When you travel, you want to know, like, where is that restaurant that all the locals go to that, tourists don't know? That was sort of my vision. And again, that's what didn't come to fruition because I ended up getting married really young and having a child young. And so I started up the corporate ladder. I got a job in marketing and loved it. So I think this is where my story is a little unique. I think a lot of people who pivot into entrepreneurship, it's because they really didn't enjoy their job. It was soul sucking to them. I loved my job. I loved marketing. I loved being creative and innovative in that way. It was such a great living. But then when I held my first baby in my arms and looked at her, I felt at a crossroads. I thought, here I am. I have to choose. I have to choose to be an exceptional mom to Gracie or to put her in daycare and pursue the personal goals that I have. And she was the obvious choice and the right choice, to be quite honest. It was a great decision that I made, and I ended up becoming a stay-at-home mom. However, it's like there's so many twists and turns in my story. I had my second child. I was a stay-at-home mom. I was teaching spin classes locally just to get out of the house and have something of my own. And I was deeply missing and craving me. I was young. I felt stifled. I felt stuck. I wanted to be with my kids, but I also knew there was so much to me. And at such a young age, to sever the ties of my dreams and my vision and my goals just felt so incorrect. And that's when entrepreneurship fell on my lap. I wasn't looking for it. I didn't have anybody in my close circle who was an entrepreneur that could sort of share their experience or offer the advice of maybe you should start something from home. And as soon as I heard about it, it was like this click. I thought, oh my goodness, this is it. This is exactly what I've been looking for. And I can hold the best of both worlds. I can be present as a mom and pursue myself. And that was 18 years ago. There's been no looking back.
Wow, that's quite the journey.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I love that. And I love how you dabbled into different things and discovered more about yourself. That's such an organic way of coming to where you are today.
Yeah. And I feel that's an entrepreneurial spirit. A lot of clients I work with, they feel like that's something that they need to tamper down and put into a box like, oh, I've got all these things. I'm always chasing a shiny object. I'm like, no, that's an entrepreneurial spirit. That's something actually to explore and celebrate and be grateful for. Now, again, we don't want to keep pivoting where we're not doing anything well and following through. But I think there's something really spectacular in life about allowing yourself to see all these different aspects and components to who we are and to really see how diverse we can be. And who knows? I mean, even now in my entrepreneurial journey, I'm exploring, I told in my story that I went to school for PR to do this lifestyle magazine, never did it. Well, I brought it to life last year. It made no sense. People were saying to me, what do you mean you're starting a magazine? You're known for building these extraordinary businesses, and now you're doing a magazine. People aren't going to understand. And I said, this is a passion project. I've always wanted to do it. It's never too late, and it doesn't need to make sense to anybody else. This is just something I really want to bring to life. And I'm so glad I did, because now it's the most sought after resource for entrepreneurs. People are waiting for me to bring out the next issue every single month. It's been so incredible. And the connections and the contributors and the resource that I have created has far exceeded what I thought it could be, back in my late teens, getting this spark and idea. So it's really beautiful to allow ourselves and give ourselves the permission to pivot and shift and just be adventurous within our lives. We're too serious most of the time.
Oh God, yes. I totally agree with that. So this idea for your business, kind of take me through that moment where you're like, this is actually what I'm going to do. Like, how did the idea come to be? What were your next steps in, making that idea a reality?
Well, I grew up in my entrepreneurship journey teaching women how to build health and wellness businesses. I'd become an affiliate to a health and wellness company that I really loved the products, and I became highly successful. So people would reach out to me and say, how can I build a health and wellness business? And I did that for 15 years successfully all over the world. I was speaking on stages in Europe. And it was there wasn't a single country that I wasn't supporting. And it was fantastic. And it was a gorgeous personal brand. And it had really scaled to something that I was really proud of and really, I look back and all the memories and the lessons and just the beautiful lifestyle I was able to create and also help others to create, because that's a really important piece. Not only was it something that I got to enjoy, but all these women I was helping around the world, they were reaping the rewards of entrepreneurship. So it was so gratifying. And all of a sudden in 2018, I started to get a bit of an itch. I was like, there's more. And I don't know what that is. And I really was bumping up against these feelings of shame and greed and, who am I, and unworthiness, because I had had so much success. I was really having a hard time deciding and honoring that there could be more, because I thought, there's people that would do anything to trade places with what I've been able to achieve. How could I possibly want more? So that was a huge hurdle for me. And if anybody's listening and you're feeling that, maybe you're in a corporate job or you've been really successful in your business, whatever that is, we can sometimes get in our own way of growth and progression by thinking that this should be enough. And I know now on the other side of that hurdle that abundance is our birthright, and we are supposed to seize every single opportunity that we have been given in this lifetime. And I also believe we're supposed to skid to the end of our life. We're not supposed to be rested and complacent and be like, that was great. We're supposed to do everything we possibly can within this lifetime. And so there's a bit of a permission slip, and I had to really work through that. And so it ended up becoming this really clear vision that I still wanted to help women create businesses, but I did not want to do it just in the wellness industry. I wanted to really spread my wings and spark some more creativity in myself by working with anybody who was an entrepreneur, because after 15 years, it really is sort of parallel. And Becoming Iconic was born. And Becoming Iconic was born because I knew I was now going to build a company that was this 360 approach to business, where someone could come and literally bring their brand home. They had the support and mentorship from me, someone who had a huge amount of experience, and also rewards in terms of the agency and the magazine and the podcast. I just saw this full circle moment, and I brought it to life. And as soon as I brought it to life, my whole entire life and business just opened up wide. It was stunning. And because of all the crunchy getting in my own way, it took 2 years. That was a 2-year hurdle for me to get over, of letting go of the grip of what was and allowing myself to be open to what is. And it was one of the best decisions I've ever made. So now, rather than a personal brand, it has really become this gorgeous company that is supporting entrepreneurs globally once again, but in a bigger way.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So let's talk about your experience starting and growing this business. What have been your biggest learnings and also your biggest wins? Moments where you're like, oh my God, I just achieved this. I am going to celebrate this big time. This is a huge milestone.
So there's something very specific that comes to mind that I think is really relevant to what we're seeing in the online space right now. And I'm going to kind of geek out on it. So hang out with me for a second, because it's going to make sense in the end. When I was building that first personal brand, I had hit a glass ceiling of multiple six figures. And, making $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 a month is really beautiful and really abundant. And you could see how I would think, why should I want more? This is amazing. But I knew there was more. And I was literally dying on the treadmill to scale to a bigger level. I really wanted to hit 7 figures, but there was something I kept bumping up against. And what I realized when I launched Becoming Iconic was I was forcing something. I was not being open to unique and special ways that could be invited in, that maybe income doesn't have to look a certain way and I don't need to control the way this income is coming in, but instead I get to be open and kind of dance and flirt with God, universe, source, energy, whatever you call it. And when I launched Becoming Iconic, that very first month that I said, here it is, we hit $100,000 month, the very first month. And I remember being really blown away. I could actually get emotional thinking about it because I was sweating. I mean, blood, sweat, and tears was going into that last brand to scale to that level. And it just felt nearly impossible. I just started giving up hope that that was even a possibility for me. So that's why I got really comfortable in that 20, 30, $40,000 range. And when I hit the 100, it was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my lifetime because I didn't expect it. I wasn't calling that in. I wasn't saying this has got to be $100,000 launch of a business. I simply was going out on a skinny branch, putting my toes over the edge. And because I had the audacity to step into something new and that I was being guided into, I feel like God and source was like, see, I told you you could have all of this. You were just trying to control everything. And so that was a really big lesson for me to release control, to trust. We don't trust our businesses enough. We want to constantly test our businesses. Like, are you really going to be there for me? Is this really going to work? Could I really have this type of income? We're always testing, almost like in a relationship. One of my most popular posts that I've ever done on Instagram was around this, treating your business like a love affair. And I just actually did a podcast on it as well, where if you actually look at the similarities, if you were in a relationship, and let's just for the sake of this conversation, say man and woman. So with my husband and I was constantly on my phone looking at other men, lusting over other men. How would my husband feel? And the same thing goes with our businesses. We're on the internet, on Instagram, scrolling all these businesses and looking at everybody's successes, going, why can't you, talking to the business, why can't we have something like this? And it's the same feeling. We're projecting that same energy of comparison and not enough and lust over something bigger and better over here. And it hurts the trust. It hurts and sort of creates this like stagnant energy and growth in our business versus really dancing with it, really trusting, knowing that it's not about testing the test of time. It's doing things until. And it took me 15 years to get to that $100,000 month. And imagine if I had given up. Imagine if I hadn't gone through that crunchy feeling. And imagine if I hadn't trusted myself, my journey, and my business. I would never have experienced that. So that was extraordinary. And it really did break and shatter that glass ceiling that had been holding me back. And after that, there was no holding me back. I mean, I knew there was nothing that was impossible, and it's just grown from there.
That's amazing. So how did you celebrate that moment that you hit that $100,000 month? Like, what did you do to really celebrate your accomplishment?
What I noticed was there was the neck syndrome. So I have to be honest and really transparent here. I didn't do a great job of celebrating it because I started to negotiate. So it sounded like this. Well, what if that was just one time? What if, this is it? And things like that. Or it was, okay, I hit 100 now. I wonder what it'd be like to hit multi six figures in a month. So I immediately bypassed the celebration into, it was sort of this parallel road of, is this it? And what's next? And this is very common for entrepreneurs. This is also very common for people in a corporate career. If you've just received some sort of promotion or raise, there's always this next syndrome. Next. So, and Jessica, I'm probably speaking your love language here. Our customer experience ends up being really tainted because we do such a good job at the forefront. And then we get these clients in and we sort of take them for granted because we're looking for the next client. And the same thing goes with monetary success or growth in the business. It's so easy to get caught up in the next. And so I didn't do a good job at celebrating. But what I did learn from that was the art of celebration. And what I've realized is it's really just a form of gratitude. If I can sit in gratitude for what is today, even if it's not $100,000 month, whatever this may be sitting with Jessica right now, like showing gratitude is celebration in motion. It's activating more. It is really being in the present moment and allowing yourself to reap the rewards, the beauty, the interest around you. And I feel like that's an art that is learned. It's not necessarily innate because most of us have been brought up in hustle culture where we're being taught to put the pedal to the metal, do not look up. And even when you look up and you think you've reached the summit, there's another mountain ahead. So put your head down and go again. And we never really came up for air and realized how much we've generated and how much we've created in our life. And so that has been a lesson, Jessica. It was not natural for me. And now I purposefully celebrate. And how I do that is a couple things. Maybe I can just offer this as practices. First thing is every month in my journal or my day timer, I write down all the wins, no matter how small. I met a new friend, Jessica, and was on our podcast. That will be in my journal. I, had a new client come in. I was able to take the kids to the beach on a Monday afternoon when most people are going to work or not giving themselves that permission. Like all those tiny wins, I show gratitude for them, which is celebration. Yes, sure, we can buy ourselves a bag to say, oh, this was for my first $100,000 month, or we can pop a bottle of champagne. And I do those things from time to time, but nothing deepens a celebration. Nothing expands abundance more than gratitude.
I totally agree. And that's something that we often bypass. And I love that you brought up, we're always looking at the next, which is so true.
It is.
It's hard to pause. It's hard to not look at your next goal. Okay, so I achieved that. Great. Let's move on. Let's all just remember to take a moment, just pause. You don't need to be rushing to the next goal constantly. Just take that moment and just show some gratitude. But also have a moment to be super proud of yourself. You've just accomplished something either huge or small. It doesn't matter. They're all still amazing. So I just love how you brought that up and how you've learned from your own experience and how you can, take that moment to celebrate. That works really well for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And something pops up as you said that, because you said something really important that I hope people actually hear. And it comes back to a saying that I often say to my clients. I say, take a breath, not a break. And so that pause is a breath, a moment just to breathe in, breathe out, and acknowledge what's going on, acknowledge how it feels. Almost take a mental picture. I call them marker moments. So if you remember way back in the day when we had maps and there were these markers that you would reach, on towards your destination. I think in life, we have those marker moments as we're going down our path, our journey to where we are meant to be and seizing these opportunities and seeing our capacity. And so I call those marker moments. It's so important to take that pause, that breath, take it all in. Think of the surroundings, look at your environment, look at the walls, look at the flowers, look at your kids, look at the nature, look at the whatever's around you. Listen, what is going on? Is there a song? Is there someone who's reaching out and telling you how wonderful you are? Is it testimonial? What's happening around you? Maybe it's children's laughter. Take in all the different components of that moment, breathe it in and remember it, mark it, because you can come back to that moment at any time to fuel you and give you energy. And at the same time, don't rest on that. That's such an interesting thing because we don't want to also rest on yesterday's successes. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs are doing that right now. They're having $100,000 month and they are resting on that success. Success as an entrepreneur is longevity, sustainability, legacy. I mean, we've got to be able to maintain this type of success. And that's where my sweet spot is. And one of the things I love to teach high achieving entrepreneurs is it's wonderful to celebrate, breathe that in, have that moment, but we can't rest upon that moment and assume that that's going to happen over and over again. I mean, this is the pursuit, the beauty of entrepreneurship is that it does require work ethic as much as it does celebration. And that's when you have these extraordinary businesses you look back upon and go, wow, look what I created. And it differentiates you in the marketplace.
Absolutely. All right, let's dive into this expertise because you've been dropping nuggets of gold wisdom all throughout this experience that you've been sharing with us. And now I'm just dying to learn more from you. So let's talk about marketing and sales. Mm-hmm. So how does marketing and sales that are led with soul, ethics, and integrity, how does it help us build a legacy of lifelong clients and customers versus just always having to get new?
So this is a really important subject. And I'm going to hold everybody accountable who's listening, myself included, so I don't exclude myself from this. It's just because of my wisdom and expertise, because I've been doing this for so long, it offers a fresh and maybe different perspective than what a lot of people are seeing, witnessing, and even participating in. So right now in the online space and marketing, so much of the marketing is hype-based marketing. And what I mean by that is people are throwing their income all over the place. It is so sloppy, as their marketing tactic, as the thing to show their expertise or their success. And I applaud that success. So I want you to understand I am not in any way stomping on that. I am so excited to see so many, especially women, who are being highly, highly successful online right now. It's extraordinary, beautiful, wonderful. I applaud it. However, many women are using this saying we need to normalize wealth for women. We are liberating ourselves. And I have a really different perspective of what that actually means. And it's just a level of maturity. Normalizing wealth with women is not constantly telling everybody how much money you made. That's not normalizing anything. As a matter of fact, it's making it abnormal, and it's exploiting, and it's also hurting a lot of people who are having 5-figure months, or, really happy in their $80,000, $100,000 a year business. It's fulfilling. It's everything they've dreamed of, but we're making that feel like that's not enough because we're throwing these numbers around like now 100K month. If you're not making that, you're not successful. It's so wrong in so many ways. And I've been talking about 100K months. So you may say, Jen, you're contradicting yourself. No, I love knowing what's possible. I will share with you what's possible, but I'm also going to share with you some of the things that are not being told. And so I want to be careful, both as someone consuming this information and also as a leader who has that type of income, that we are really actually liberating ourselves. And liberation to me, especially from a female woman perspective, is I don't need to prove anything to anyone, because if I'm in fact liberated, there's nothing to say. My success gets to speak for itself. And I'm more focused on my integrity, and I'm more focused on the results that I am providing my clients than constantly sharing my income that can change from day to day, month to month, and half the time it's not the full story anyways. And so that's something I want to hold us accountable to, that as a buyer, we're not buying from someone based on what they've told us is their income. And that as someone making that income, we don't put the whole focus on that as the pinnacle sort of trophy of success. Instead, how are you treating your clients and customers? What are the results they're getting? What are the testimonials? What do you stand for? What is your character? What are your values? Those things matter when you're building a business and a brand. Those are the things you'll be remembered by. And so I want to make sure that I say this very vocally. Again, not to stomp and hold back anybody from celebration and success, but it can't be the only thing we're celebrating, and it can't be the only thing we're looking at as successful. I think a new mom starting her entrepreneurship journey, I think of myself. I remember thinking if I could make $2,000 a month as a stay-at-home mom and have that income coming in, what could that do for my family and how would that make me feel? That felt so big when I started. And I remember when I hit it, feeling like everything just kind of fell into place. And I haven't lost sight of that. Yes, the business has grown, but I've been doing this for a really long time. I would hope it did. But let's not bypass what $2,000 a month could mean for someone who is holding her baby and doesn't want to go back to a full-time job and wants to seize the memories and the moments with that child. And I feel like we're making that not enough right now. And I really want to stand for those people.
So this is such an important topic that you've brought up. Lots of people have a lot of feelings about this. I 100% agree with what you just said. I personally, and this is just my own perspective, I 100% agree that it does create a vibe of not being enough. And it impacted me on a personal level quite a bit earlier on. I think it was like a year and a half ago in my business where you're constantly bombarded with those types of marketing strategies on the internet, especially when you are not used to social media. I never really enjoyed social media in my personal life. I did it once in a while, but then having to be in it constantly for your business, it's overwhelming. And when you're getting that type of messaging, you're like, okay, so that's what success means. I have to hit those types of milestones in order to be considered successful, in order for me to consider myself successful. And it got me completely off track. Like, that is not the type of business that I want to build. I don't want to hit 100K months. Like that is not my definition of success. So everybody has their own definition. I also, from my perspective, I will never hire a company that leads with that type of strategy. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that's just not how I align with a certain type of business that I'm looking for support from. I would rather hear, what has the delivery been like for your clients? What has their experience been like? What has the transformation been like for them? Because you can have 100K months, but you could have a shit ass delivery. You could most likely not be doing anything transformational for your clients at all. And you're just constantly getting new business because you're hyping up the fact that you're so popular and you're making all of this money. But what is the actual results? I think that's what I want to hear. I don't care what you're making in your business. I want to know how you're transforming other people's lives and businesses. And that's what's going to resonate with me. And that's what's going to attract me to purchase your services or to work with you.
Oh, amen, Jessica. Amen. And here's the thing, just because you hit 100K a month doesn't mean you have the experience, the wisdom, the knowledge, the infrastructure to teach other people how to do that. So what we're seeing is people hitting these big months and then all of a sudden becoming these experts. Well, again, that's where I have a sweet spot, like a soft spot for them, because I'm like, oh, you're babies, like you're baby entrepreneurs and you've had this success. I remember how that felt. Back then it was 20, 30, 40K months, which, to be honest with you, 15 years ago, that was like having $200,000 months. I mean, it's just how the world changes, right? And shifts. And I remember being completely unprepared, overspending. I had no money. And what I'm seeing, and a lot of people who are reaching out to me are these ones who have reached the 7-figure mark, but they have no money in the bank. They're in debt. They have a massive team that they're overpaying. They're doing ads. Like, you look at the back end of the business and it is certainly not what's being shown over social media, and the pressure that person feels, because once you start down that path, I mean, if you start with hype marketing, you've got to keep up your hype marketing because that's how you've built your reputation. You can change and shift, but it is uncomfortable and it is really crunchy. And I've had to do it in my past. So again, I can walk people through this because I know how it feels. I've been there, done that. It's a part of the journey. But we've got to be so careful about how we're investing. I love that you said, Jessica, like, I care more about how someone treats me and the result and transformation they're offering me than what they made last month. It has no relevance.
Exactly.
Other than showing what's possible. And again, I love knowing what's possible. And really, the sky's the limit for anybody who's starting in a journey. And even in relationship, I mean, we can take this in all the directions, but we are getting really swooned and wooed into this marketing that is making us feel like that's my person because they made X amount of dollars. Well, how do they make you feel when you're in their presence? Do they care for you? Are they available? Is their ego? There's so many things that go along that you need to have your antennas up for and you need to pay attention to, because character, value, and ethics, I'm sorry, that's worth a whole lot more than what someone made last month.
Exactly. And just because they made that doesn't mean it's guaranteed for you, right? Like, you're your own person, you're your own business, you're operating in a different way. They can't guarantee that you're going to make that type of money. So you have to have more depth in regards to who you select to work with and who you hire and whatnot. There's got to be more to it than that type of marketing strategy. And I do want to point out that, like, I agree with you, fantastic. Like, so freaking happy for those people that are making like that level of income. Like, good for you, like, keep going type thing. But there's got to be more to your marketing strategy than just sharing that. Yes, absolutely, pull back the curtain and show those types of things once in a while in your business, so that you can show people what is actual possible for them, if that is something that they feel aligned with, and that's the type of business and income that they want to have. But include other things in your strategy that's going to make more of an impact. And I think that would even increase their sales even more when they show the transformation. And I love that you brought up, because from an operationalist perspective, I've walked into clients' businesses that are sharing that they've made quite a bit of money and walking into their business and it's a chaotic mess.
Yes.
Like, when we come down to it, they really are not true entrepreneurs. Like, there is a lot of learning and there is a lot that they need to go through in order to understand what it is to take to like build an actual sustainable, long-standing business that is not just going to be like a moment in time.
Oh, isn't it true, Jessica? And again, if anybody listening in, this isn't like a bomb.
No.
This is actually should have everybody's hearts ripped open and their eyes casting a bigger vision for themselves, because we've been comparing to something that we don't have a full picture to and of. What's so interesting in this conversation, you just brought something up, is I did 2 posts this past week that went viral. And both of those posts were really triggering for some people. The first one was how I actually build my lifestyle. Had nothing to do with my income, and how I take 3 days every single week off of my business. I take a week every single month off of my business, and I take 2 months out of the year off of my business. And I actually had a past client write an email, and because I'm on her email list, I saw it, saying how triggering, and it made her angry and she was jealous, but yet it opened the door for her of realizing she's chasing a dollar. She's not chasing a lifestyle. And that post was so popular. I firmly believe because it was refreshing, because at the end of the day, why do we want the income? Well, we want the income because we want to feel a certain way. What do we want to feel? We want to feel peaceful. We want to feel fulfilled. We want to feel joy. We want to feel opportunity. We want to experience life. And so we're so blinded by the dollar amount that may not even be $100,000. For you, it may be $10,000 a month that would create the lifestyle of your dreams. So let's pay more attention to the actual lifestyle we're creating than the income, because the income is a side effect of you doing a really good job in your business, period. And the other thing that was really interesting is I did a post and it was really vulnerable, and I wasn't sure how it would go over. I wasn't sure if I would turn people off, and I did lose some followers, so it was interesting. But I spoke this week about how 18,000 of reoccurring revenue was released in June. They're just contracts that had finished. We had a few smaller contracts. I had a couple of clients that had been with me for years, and they just moved into something different with me versus private, which is going to happen. It's business, of course. And I talked about how I released that. But when I released that 18,000 a month in reoccurring revenue, I didn't flinch. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, how am I going to pay my team now? And what are we going to do? I can't pay the bills. Like, I have set up a business that has cushion, that can allow that type of influx, which again is going to happen in business. But nobody's talking about how they're maybe releasing income, how clients leave, these types of things. And because I'm viewed, and I'm using air quotes, nobody can see it, as a successful entrepreneur and someone who has, had those months and those years, it's really controversial that I would talk about, oh, wait, you're telling us what, the things that maybe nobody wants to say or doesn't want anybody to know, that business leaves. Well, yes, I'm a leader. And in leadership, I must give you the full scope of what happens in business. If I'm constantly telling you that, oh, we have a new client, we hit this month, and you're going to feel like a complete failure in your business when you have a client who leaves and says, thank you so much. That was a wonderful experience, but I feel complete. Instead of celebrating that, you're going to need clients. I don't want that for you. And so that was a really interesting post, because the comments and the response was tremendous, where people said, thank you. oh my goodness, I didn't even know that people like yourself had that happened. I was like, what picture have we painted? And what are we setting people up for? This very skewed version of what success is. Well, success is, how do you lead when business isn't going well, is as important as how you lead when business is going well, because it's going to look like the Rocky Mountains. If you look at your business growth, if you looked at my last 18 years and that line of growth, it literally looks like the Rocky Mountains. It's not this beautiful, nice line going up, 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 up. It's all over the place because I had lessons to learn. I had, things I put out into the world that maybe didn't hit home for people. I had clients that weren't aligned. I pivoted, I moved, I shifted. So let's be more open to both sides of the equation of business, because if we talk about the full picture, that's when we become really good entrepreneurs, because we're not surprised by clients leaving. We're not surprised by disappointment. We're not surprised by a soft month. It's like, oh, there it is. I was taught that this is going to happen and I've prepared for this moment. And that's one of my favorite things I love to coach people on, is preparing for those moments of impact. And then you have a business that will withstand the test of time.
I love that. And I love that you brought this up, clients leaving. It doesn't have to mean it's a bad thing. It could actually be, which you should hope it is, you fulfilled your commitment. They are good to stand on their own 2 feet now. Of course you want them to leave. That was the whole point of you working with them, is to get them to be able to do what they need to do on their own, right? Like, to me, depending on the service that you're offering, if a client is meant to work with you once or twice max, in order to have that transformation, in order to be able to go out on their own and do the thing, but they're staying with you for years, there's something wrong.
Right. Well, here's what it is. It's trauma bonding, and especially in the coaching industry, we have a lot of trauma bonding going on, which comes through with pain point selling. So I'm going to pick at your pain points for you to buy from me, because you're going to need me and I'm going to fix you. And I'm sorry, but nobody needs to be fixed and nobody should need anybody. And the other thing is codependency. A lot of mentors, a lot of coaches, a lot of consultants build codependent relationships. Why? Because they want to rest on yesterday's success. Oh, I've got this client. I want the client to need me. I want the client to feel like without me, they couldn't do this alone. And that is so polar opposite of what actually the essence, the seed, the whole intention around coaching is. Coaching and mentorship is, I'm going to teach you and tell you everything I've learned. I'm going to give you blueprints. I'm going to hold your hand during times where you feel like you're crawling and falling. I'm going to nudge you forward in times where you doubt yourself. And there's going to be some times where I'm ahead of you, leading and showing you the path. But in no way, shape, or form do I ever want you to feel like you can't do this without me, because that is not a good relationship or a healthy relationship. Do I love when my clients stay with me for years and years? I absolutely do. Why? Because I'm continuing to grow. I'm learning new things. So there's constantly things that I get to offer them, but I never want them to stay with me because they think they can't spread their own wings, do this on their own, and that they need Jen in order to be successful. That is not a good, healthy relationship, and that's not empowerment. And again, from a little girl I knew, you're here to build confidence, poise, vision, empowerment in women. And if I'm going to do that effectively, I've got to get my ego out of the way. I've got to get out of their way and simply be this beautiful guide for them, so that they start to see themselves in the mirror, and the reflection that comes back to them is so breathtaking that it makes me cry. That nothing becomes impossible anymore, that they actually start to enjoy their lives, enjoy their relationships, have fun building businesses, have fun in their marketing, start to be audacious in sharing their voice and being seen and being heard and being felt by the world, and knowing that their fingerprint matters, that they contributed something, that they made an impact, that they have pursued their purpose. That's becoming iconic. That's it. it's not a revenue amount. It's not last month's income. It's not how much you made off of the launch of your business or company or the program you're offering or the service you're offering. It's who are you and how are you showing up in this world? And that is courageous and brave. But this is what we need to start paying attention to. We need to have these conversations, Jessica. I'm so grateful for this with you because more people need to hear this so that they stand up a little straighter, roll their shoulders back and go, I have a lot to offer and give. And if Jessica or I get to be a person that nudges that along and applauds and cheerleads you to that, I mean, that's a life worth living.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. So I could talk to you for hours on this. But let's dive into imposter syndrome and how we can make decisions before we feel that we're ready for it. I'd love to get your take on this.
So it's interesting. I was just talking to a client about this yesterday, and I'm like, I got to find a new term for imposter syndrome because I have this bit of duality with it. I don't love the term imposter syndrome because none of us want to be an imposter. I don't want to be an imposter. You don't want to be an imposter because if we're being an imposter, we're in this like presence or performative persona that doesn't align. We're not being authentic. And so I don't love the term imposter syndrome. However, we all feel the feelings of what that term means. And those feelings show up of unworthiness. Why me? Is this even possible? Who am I? I can't be in this room. These people know more than me. Like these fears and hesitations that bubble up in our bodies. And the way I love to teach this, what I've done for myself is to realize that, and for the sake of this conversation, because I don't have a better term for it yet, imposter syndrome is a companion to growth. So when I feel imposter syndrome, when I'm feeling those feelings of not enough, unworthy, fear, hesitation, who am I actually settle into that to go, wow, I must be doing something pretty stretchy today. I must be doing something I've never done before. And that is the clue and cue for me of personal growth and development and what I've signed up for and what I'm committed to. And so rather than resist it, bypass it, shove it down, even talk to it too much. I think we can get caught up in that too. Like the personal development world has told us that we need to like sit in the feelings. And I think there's a level of recognition of the feeling, but I don't think we need to stay there for too long. It's just like, oh, here it is. I must be doing something pretty neat. I must be doing something I've never done before. I must be seeing a newer version of myself. And it's just kind of knowing that it's going to be there. Just put it in the back seat of the car. Don't have to even kick it out of the car, just in the back seat. It's this passenger, but it also gets to nudge you and show you that you're doing something wonderful. And so now rather than it holding me back from making a move, when I'm making a move and it shows up, I'm like, aha, there it is. I must be doing something great today. And it almost kind of provokes me to do more, if that makes any sense. It doesn't stop me anymore. And I wish more people could look at it that way.
I love that. That is a great way to look at it. Because we can often make it seem like it's this huge negative thing that's kind of like creeping up behind us and we're just like trying to avoid it. But it's actually, I like that you mentioned, it's like a companion. It's just showing you where you can grow further.
And it's this one part that I think is the biggest hold up and set back for people really seeing what they're made of, for people missing the potential of what was in, is sitting in that imposter syndrome, sitting in that fear, and giving it more of a microphone than the vision, dream, intuition, guidance that's inside of your soul. You just got to turn it on to mute and give the microphone back to self. And it's interesting because as I say that, I'm like, of course, imposter syndrome is also self, because it's not like we can sever ties from fear or sadness or grief or anger or worry. These are it's a human experience. These are human feelings. We can't get rid of those things. It's just how we navigate through it that makes us invite more joy, invite more excitement, invite more adventure, invite more fulfillment. It's just giving more premise to that than and sort of allowing that imposter syndrome to hum. But I see it so often where people have these incredible ideas, but those ideas just kind of fade away. They collect dust on the shelf. because someone gave more attention to the feelings of fear, hesitation, worry, doubt than they did to the vision and call on their heart.
Yes, 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 yes. I love that. So you've kind of hinted to my next question when it comes to like shifts.
Mm-hmm.
What are the biggest shifts that we need to make in order to welcome in abundance?
What comes up for me and has probably been and will be one of my life's journeys and biggest lessons is trust. I feel like in order for us to really invite abundance in, we're seeing a lot of people teach about manifestation, and manifestation is real, but how it's being taught isn't the full picture. So let me just go there for a second, then I'll bring it back. Manifestation isn't simply just desiring. Manifestation isn't simply just having a vision and then sitting back and going, if I believe it, I can achieve it. That's a part, that's an ingredient, but it's not the full recipe. The full recipe is being able to action and move and do the things that are required to invite that abundance in. And that takes trust. Both sides take trust to a certain level, but it's easy to trust the feeling, the vision, like looking at it and, oh, I believe I can be a millionaire. I believe I can build this business. I believe I can change the world. So I'm going to sit back and I'm going to manifest that. Well, we have a lot of people sitting back trying to manifest and not having any result and starting to think that they're wrong or their vision must be wrong or they're doing something wrong. The only thing is you're missing this ingredient of action, and that action is based upon trust, trusting yourself and trusting yourself that if this succeeds, I can hold it. If this doesn't succeed, I will learn such incredible lessons to apply to the next thing or whatever this ends up morphing into. It's that trusting that this is not going to take you down. We think people are paying way more attention to us than they are. So we fear, like, what are people going to think if I fail? They're not actually paying that much attention. They're not sitting around at night thinking, what's Jen up to? And what has she done for her business today? And how successful is it? They're not. They're absolutely not. So we need to bring back the power to ourselves. We need to sink into trust for ourselves, because if we can't trust ourselves, it's going to be really difficult to trust anything else or anyone else in life. And I believe that those things, like, so believing it, envisioning it, that's absolutely necessary. You got to cast a vision for yourself, but then build the trust. And you do that by actioning, by doing something, because by doing something, you start to build that trust, like, oh, I'm okay. Oh, that didn't work. But you know what? I'm still standing. Nothing's changed in my world. Just didn't work. I learned a lesson. I'm going to apply it. Keep going, keep going, keep going. You've got to action in order to build this abundance, build this trust, build this glorious manifestation that it's your birthright. It's rightfully yours.
I love that. That's so well put. And yes, I totally agree. There needs to be more to manifestation than what's currently being taught by some.
Right.
It's a bigger practice, but I love that you bring it back to trust. And that's often something that we struggle with, right? We struggle with trusting ourselves, our businesses, everything, because we're just constantly living in fear.
Right.
That's so good. Okay. So this is like a no-brainer. People should want to work with you following this conversation immediately. So what do you have available that people can opt into to work with you?
Well, thank you for this opportunity. It's really generous of you to invite that in. So thank you. And to me, anybody who reaches out, I just want you to know right away, I take that as a huge honor, responsibility, and privilege. And so that's really important that you know my heart and my spirit. To even come forward just feels like such a great blessing. And if it gets to be something where we work together, my heart will be so happy. So for me, it's really quite simple. I don't have a complicated business because, again, I know my lane, I know what I'm really good at, and I know where I can make big shifts and transformations. So private coaching for me is my sweet spot. It's so interesting because it's very contradictory to the world. It's telling you to, not do private coaching and sell e-courses. I've been there, done that. I I know that e-courses have value for knowledge, but nothing beats proximity. Nothing beats having someone who has 18 years of experience getting into your life and business and getting my fingers dirty in what you're building. So that is my sweet spot. I absolutely love the sacred relationship and partnership of private coaching. And I also have a mastermind. It's the other pillar way of working with me. And the mastermind is quite gorgeous. One of the things I'm known for is the emotional archetype of people that I bring into my world. So you come into this mastermind and there's everything from interior designers to creatives to OBMs to coaches to people who are just starting out and pivoting from corporate. I mean, there's such an array, which actually makes it quite a beautiful mastermind, because it's actually really are these mastering minds and so many different experiences to offer perspectives. So it's really rich and abundant in there. But the one thing that is common amongst everybody is that emotional archetype: generosity, compassion, vision, wanting to make a difference. There's just a different type of person that I attract. And I think you could hear it through the interview. I mean, I have this sort of wisdom and perspective that may be a little different than a lot of the marketplace. So those are the two things that I highly encourage people to investigate. I also host an agency. The agency, it was very natural and organic. It just sort of happened from clients working with me and then paying for branding and websites and even podcast management, all these different things. And they were paying just extreme amounts of money. It was unbelievable what they were paying, and then being totally deflated, defeated after the experience. They didn't like the branding. The website wasn't functional, all sorts of things. And I just started offering my team to my clients because I knew what they did and I knew the world-class experience they offered because I was a person, receiving that. And so now we've brought it out into the world and we're doing some pretty incredible things with some pretty incredible entrepreneurs. So that's another way. And then of course the magazine and podcast are free. So you can go to becomingiconic.co and at least get your hands on this magazine. It is so good. And I bring these iconic, beautiful, gorgeous people into the magazine for you to learn from every single month, as well as recipes and lifestyle. Think of it like Forbes meets Vogue. That's what it is. And that's free for you as well as the podcast.
Amazing. All right. Well, head on over to her website. It is a beautiful website and she's going to have lots for you to peruse on there. But if you have any questions, please do connect with her or even just reply to me on Instagram and I will connect you guys together. But thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us and for sharing your story, your expertise. You've shared incredible insights and nuggets of wisdom here that many are going to resonate with and be able to have incredible takeaways that they can apply in their business. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you.
Thank you for joining us today. Your presence truly elevates Love Unplugged into a home for freedom-driven women who aspire to be visionary CEOs. If today's episode resonated with you, I'd be honored if you take a moment to rate and review the show. Your feedback helps us bring more impactful conversations to our community. Let's continue to grow this empowering community together. Until next time.